Welcome to Hub City Spokes, a podcast where we talk about entrepreneurs, artists, and other influencers. I'm Mike Jones, your host, and on this episode is Amy Wood with Flint Avenue. Amy is the founder and creative director of Flint Avenue. Hey, Amy.
Hey.
How's it going?
Going real good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Why don't you tell us what a little bit about Flint Avenue?
Sure. So Flint Avenue is a content company at our core. Most of the things that we do in Lubbock are all things marketing. So we do a lot of social media, print, design, digital strategy, all things marketing, really.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about how you became founder and creative director of Flint Avenue.
All right. This is like a Lifetime movie drama. So you ready for this story?
Yeah. Let's hear it.
All right. So I grew up in Lubbock, and then in the early 2000s, I moved to the Houston area, and I got a job working for a consulting firm there as a writer. I did a lot of instructional design and other types of content development. And the company that I worked for, I just sort of worked my way up the chain, and I was working in Fortune 500 companies, going in and working with their creative teams and their corporate marketing departments. So I'm talking like Halliburton, Weatherford. It was the energy corridor. This is Houston. So that's the kind of companies that you have there. But then there was also a lot of technology coming out of Silicon Valley. So we were working with Apple and HP and writing their content manuals and quick start guides for their products. And anyway, so I worked there for about 10 years, grew the company, climbed the chain, worked my way up into director of services position, which was actually at the time was like acting vice president of the company. We had a lot of structural changes. And then this is where the Lifetime drama part kicks in. So our CEO made some not so great choices financially. And so we ended up having to close the company. And so a lot of the creative teams that we had built, we had gone from like a $1 million company to a $10 million company in a very short time. And it's in the consulting world, that's a lot of money. It's not a lot of money in maybe some other type companies, but in a small business, to grow to a $10 million company in such a short time was a huge deal. So we had a lot of creatives that were just flooded the market suddenly. And so they were looking to me. I was acting vice president of the company. They said, what are we going to do next? Are you going to try to keep these clients? What are we going to do? And I said, if you guys will work and we can create this, if you'll work for me, then I will find work for you. And so that's what I did. I started Flint Avenue really to feed the freelancers that I had been feeding for the last decade. And so, I just basically started going back and trying to recoup some of those clients that we had lost from the previous company and start growing from there.
Okay, that's a great story. I appreciate it. So where do you guys generally operate?
In Lubbock, or like our client base?
Your clients, where are your clients located? Where do you do what you do?
Yeah, so we have clients all across the U.S., some in California, some in Florida, and then spattered across the U.S., Colorado and Lubbock and around. And then our teams are everywhere. So we have team members the same all across the U.S., different digital nomads that are kind of working around. But what we're really trying to do right now is grow our Lubbock team. So we have about 4 people in Lubbock that are, just part of our core team. And we're starting to grow that more and more.
Do you find it advantageous to be here in the central time zone and kind of right in the middle of the United States?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just being in this area anyway, just the heart of a West Texan, we just kind of have that natural customer service and ability to serve with excellence. And so having somebody face to face, and I've found that a lot of the companies appreciate that too. Like they recognize that it's a good place to be.
Right. And people do business with people, and it's a little easier to get to know the people here.
Definitely.
Seems like. Yeah.
Definitely.
Tell me a little bit about your typical customer. What do they want?
All right. Well, we have sort of 2 types of customers. On one side, like our small business division, it's a lot of the work comes right out of the Innovation Hub. They're startup companies or small businesses that are ready to rebrand themselves, do something different, or a startup company that needs some branding strategy. They don't know how to enter the market at all. And so we help them develop that. And then the other side of what we do is the enterprise level. And that's stuff that's more working with those Fortune 500 companies, again, as an outsourced marketing partner. What we do for them is not a lot of strategy. They have strategists that they're happy to use. But what they do need is somebody to do production work for them, just like knock out technical documents, rebrand documents, things like that.
Right. Okay. And talk to me about your role as creative director, what a day in the life of Amy Wood looks like.
Oh, wow. So I spend a lot of time on social media.
Sure.
Because I'm constantly watching and seeing what's trending where, and then which clients kind of plug into those things. I'm not always writing all the strategy, but I feel like with my team, I always need to have my finger on the pulse of that. So usually my day starts with getting up. I always spend time meditation in the morning, prayer. And then after that, I pretty much dive into the social world. We talk about it with our teams and our team meetings. We're always talking about, what's trending, what happened last night, anything in the world that we need to be talking about. And then reviewing a lot of content I read a lot, content we create and content out in the world.
What social media platforms do you focus on?
It depends on the client. For myself personally, like for Flint Avenue, I like Flint Avenue. I like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. For other people, I'm playing around on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, anything. If you want to do anything, follow stuff in Lubbock, like Texas Tech, you got to be on Twitter. Yeah, because they're really active, or any live event. What
is it about Texas Tech and Lubbock that is conducive to creating your business, to running your business?
At first, when I first started Flint Avenue, I didn't even realize all the resources that were available to me through Texas Tech. I'm not a tech grad, and so I just didn't realize that there was so much there, but I'm learning, and they're getting better about sharing it too. One of the very first things that I ever did, maybe like in the first year of business, is I came to 1 million cups at the Innovation Hub, and I came to one, I presented at one, I made a lot of connections from that very first visit. And then I started to see the programs that are happening here, just iCore, iLaunch, Accelerator Program, and seeing how much is poured into startups in this area. And then you start to see the research coming out of Texas Tech. And I found my niche because these guys, like super brilliant scientists, can invent all these amazing things, have no clue how to sell it.
Sure.
So it's a natural fit for me to come in, align with them, understand what they're doing, and then help them find a place to find a buyer.
What of those, I understand, with 1 million cups, the advice side of it, the networking side of it. What about what are some other benefits that you've been able to take advantage of from the community here, like networking, with the chamber, those kinds of things?
Yeah, so I'm a member of a lot of things. At the chamber, I'm one of the ambassadors. I'm also in Leadership Lubbock, and just the networking in that alone is like crazy amazing. And then and different programs that they have, like their Leadership Lubbock, which you're gonna learn everything about Lubbock, and you're gonna understand how the chamber is not just ribbon cuttings and happy hours, but they're actually like working on policy to help improve the lives of small businesses and help you grow and get attention out in the West Texas area. And that Texas doesn't like stop at I-35. There's actually life happening over here and it's good. Yeah. So, through all of that, even just networking events that different individuals have held, just like on meetup.com, like you start to utilize those kind of platforms more, and then, get plugged in. And if you're willing to do stuff, there's help, and there's people, and everybody's willing to help you.
Tell me about some of the networking groups you go to.
So I'm in one group called Partners in Enterprise, and it's a referral based kind of group. Mm-hmm. We've grown pretty close. We're all small business owners that we sort of share our stories and help each other along the way. We are pretty brutal with one another. So we'll scrub each other's ideas. And then, of course, Women in Cups, same sort of situation. You get to see other startups. I run the Lady Leaders of Lubbock, is one of the meetup groups that's out there right now. I started it just to kind of talk to a few women, get them. I was going to all these networking groups. There was no women. It was all men, which is fine. But at the same time, I'm like, where's my girls at? Can somebody show up?
Yeah.
And so I started Lady Leaders of Lubbock, and it's grown. It's like almost 300 women now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy. And they're mostly active online. Like I can't get everybody to, come out and come to everything that happens, but little by little it grows. And I'm in the Association of Women in Communication. That's another great group. Of course, Chamber. I think that's everything.
You're missing a couple.
I am. Church.
TW3, right?
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
And, what goes on there at the Tech Club on Thursday mornings? Do you do that?
Oh, yeah. Coffee Connection.
Yeah.
Texas Tech Club. So I'm on their membership council.
Right.
And then I'm on the Friendship Advisory Council for Friendship Schools. And I do a lot of stuff, Mike.
So when do you actually work then,
Right.
And so it's fantastic. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to do this podcast, was because there are so many opportunities and so many resources for people in Lubbock to grow their business or start a business, or something that I've seen a lot of lately is nonprofits. A lot, if you go to the accelerator programs or, any of the competitions here at Texas Tech, it's like half of it's going to be not-for-profit type things, which I think is... it's just indicative of the younger person's, desire to be connected and to give back, I think. However, that's not the only side of it. So, we have a lot of opportunities to give back in our ecosystem. Can you tell me about some of the activities you've been involved in that were basically opportunities to put back in some of what, you benefited from?
Yeah, definitely. So at the Innovation Hub at Texas Tech. So in January, started being a mentor officially here. And so that just means that I work with startups and kind of coach them through. Sometimes it's a program like Red Raider Startup Weekend. Sometimes it's the Yay program, sitting as a panelist for them to help them scrub their pitches, things like that. But I'm here all the time. And so probably different from some of the other mentors at the Innovation Hub, because my office is here. I'm running into these guys all the time. Mm-hmm. And so they're like, hey, can we talk for just 10 minutes?
Just ad hoc meetings.
Just a little.
Yeah.
And so I'm constantly pouring back in that way. And then anytime I get an opportunity to speak, or, especially if it's something for women, just to encourage or motivate them about confidence and empowerment. And then speaking at Tech, I've spoken a couple of classes there, just talking to them about, how to brand themselves personally and things like that. So
that's great. And when you're not working and when you're not volunteering and attending networking events and stuff, what do you do for fun?
So my husband and I will do everything in Lubbock. So if there's we try to do First Friday Art Trail and stuff like that. And then just anything that's happening. A lot of our friends, if they're opening a new business or something like that, we want to be there. We have some land outside of town, and we're very into just riding around on our golf cart and and checking out the sunsets and just enjoying the slower parts of life.
What's your favorite part of First Friday Art Trail? What is First Friday Art Trail?
So the First Friday Art Trail, all of the different galleries down in the art district in Lubbock will open their doors, which they're open anyway, but you can go with groups of people. They close off the streets. They'll have tons of food trucks, and then you can walk or ride the trolley from gallery to gallery. You can meet the artists and hear the stories behind it, which would be my favorite part. I always like to hear how people got where they are, what they're doing, and what inspired them to do and create the things that they create. I probably love to go to Luca the most, because a lot of times they'll have a more interactive art experience. So it's not always, just looking at a painting on a wall. That's pretty cool, but you actually get to participate in something. And I like that a lot.
Yeah. I like the food trucks.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part.
Right?
Yeah.
My husband and we're pretty active in our church. My husband's on staff at Church on the Rock in Lubbock. And so we spend, we spend a bit of time there too. Of course, if you're on staff, you spend time at church. So
Right. So you grew up in Lubbock.
Yeah.
And went to Houston. Why did you go to Houston?
Well, there were opportunities there.
Yeah.
My husband was a pilot. And so there weren't a lot of aviation opportunities in Lubbock at the time. So we went to Houston, started an aviation company there, where we brokered and chartered aircraft, and then also did some just like fractional ownership stuff with aircraft there. So I got a fun taste in the aviation world. Mm-hmm. And then, and then all the partners, we all sold all their planes. We sold that company and then moved back for aging parents. And I'm glad I did.
Yeah. So it was your folks or your husband's folks that brought y'all back to town?
Yes.
That's great. Talk to me a little bit about people maybe that have helped you out along your journey, either there at your company in Houston or here after you moved back.
Yeah. So one of a mentor that's been a mentor in my life forever. His name's Richard Graves. He actually works as a training facilitator out of the Dallas area, but he used to come to Lubbock and he would teach leadership courses. And I worked at the call center for Singular Wireless. This is like one of my very first jobs. And he came in and he was just like, man, you've just got something different, something special with teaching and understanding how adult learners learn. And so he spent a lot of time pouring into me just about instructional design and about how to be a writer and how to recognize how people learn and how people receive information and good ways to interact with them and how to show empathy without sympathy. And so I feel like he really put me on a good track for not just for training development, but then that totally mirrors over into marketing development, because you're still talking to people and you're still trying to get them to emote some sort of reaction, whether it's a purchase or a connection or to build trust.
Right.
And so he taught me all of those things. I still keep in touch with him. In the Houston area, my manager that I had for a long time, her name was Tammy Dunn. She was amazing. She kind of one of those like no excuses kind of people that's like expects excellence at every turn. And I feel like she inspired that in me. And then back in Lubbock, I mean, a lot of the people in our 1 Million Cups community, just believing like you can do this and you're good and you're smart. And I feel like that, like your company with Caprock, whenever you were over there, like that group inspired a lot. Some of the guys at Simpatico really poured a lot into Flint Avenue's early years.
Great. Are there any habits that you have that help you to stay on top of things and to be successful?
I think, gosh, there's a lot of things. I don't know. Sometimes it's hard to be like, is that a quirk or a habit? Is that a good thing? But definitely I read every single day. I try to read something. And then if I'm not reading, I'm listening through Audible, which, auditory reading, I guess. I try to listen to all kinds of stuff. And then I write a lot. I try to document not just something that's for work or something that's going to be read by somebody else, but just to document like something that I see and try to explain it well. And I feel like that discipline of just documentation has helped me a lot.
Yeah. I think that leads to evaluation, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the purpose of journaling and documenting things is to evaluate yourself.
Yeah.
And to make sure that you're doing what you're doing, doing the best that you can do.
Always.
Yeah. And there's always room for improvement, it seems like. You mentioned you read a lot. What have you read any books recently that you can recommend to people?
Yeah. Well, our team's reading a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk right now.
Yeah.
So they're not like they're motivational in one way, but it's not like, like deep reads or anything like that.
What help me out. I'm not, I've heard the name.
He does like social stuff. Gary Vaynerchuk. I just like and
he's an author as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was pulling up my, jab, jab, right hook. We're listening to that one.
Yeah.
The 48 Laws of Power.
Okay. Yeah.
You Are a Badass. That's another book we're reading right now.
Right.
Am I allowed to say badass on this podcast?
86 pages of insanity.
Yep. Crushing It. That's another Gary Vaynerchuk book.
Yeah. Why you might need to fire your most talented employee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
And then through the hub, they always encourage a new startup that comes through to read the Lean Startup. And so I've been working my way through that one too. I'm always reading like 7 books at the same time.
Yeah.
I like to bounce around.
Awesome. Can you think of anything that you've taken from a book and implemented in your professional or personal life that you can think back to and think that made a difference?
Yeah. I mean, this is one of those things that's gonna make me sound very old probably, but Stephen Covey's 7 Habits, that book is just timeless to me. And one of the chapters, he says to understand before trying to be understood. Right. And that is something like, that phrasing has stuck with me forever. And even through what I'm learning at the Innovation Hub and what I'm learning as I help companies like go to market, is that the number one thing is customer discovery. You have to understand what people need, what they want, what problems they're having before you try to solve something. Right. And so if you just go out trying to like blast your agenda all over the world, it doesn't usually go very far, And so just that principle from Stephen Covey, just understand before trying to be understood, I always thought was really powerful.
Well, it doesn't age you that much. Austin Hughes was here, and I talked to him.
Yeah. And he said Covey too?
No, he said Think and Grow Rich.
Oh, wow, yeah. Napoleon Hill, right?
Yeah, and I believe that was like 1939.
That's an old one, yeah.
Yeah. So
that's a good one.
1989, that's very recent history, if you ask me. Let's see. Can you think of anything along your path that was in your control? I'm not talking about accidental things or things that you didn't really have any control over, but things that basically you messed up. And what was it? What did you learn from it? What should you have done? Give us an example of something like that.
Yeah, I definitely messed some things up. So I would say probably like in the first year of business, saying yes to like absolutely everything. I just said yes, I'll cross the board no matter what price people could afford. And I way undervalued what I brought to the table. And so I feel like I kind of messed that up in the beginning. I struggled a little bit, and then I started to figure that out. Actually, the guys recording our podcast today, the Hamill brothers, were a good part in helping me figure that out. They're part of my startup community of entrepreneurs.
I remember their presentation at 1 Million Cups. One of the things that they said was make sure that you're getting your customers value your services. Yeah.
And they said, know what you do and know what you don't do.
Yeah.
And when they said that, I was like, that's so simple. That's so simple, guys. And they like really that resonated with me quite a bit. And so, I've tried to be better about that. Or, if it's not something that I do, that I recruit the person that can. And so it's not that we can't do it, because with a freelance community like the world has, like you could do anything really. You just need somebody to manage it, and I can manage anything, right? So it's not that I need to say no to things. I just need to value things, and I need to bring in the right people at the right time to do the right pieces of things. And so I've learned that for sure.
From a practical standpoint, because this is something that I would say every startup business focuses or struggles with, is the pricing side of things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, early on, you do say yes to everything.
Yeah.
Right, because you've got a house payment, right? Or you've got kids, right? You got children, you have things to do. So if you could go back and change that, how would you change it? And and I'm just trying to give someone who's in your shoes now an idea and some confidence to change that situation?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you almost have to a little bit in the beginning. You have to kind of, you can't enter the market necessarily at top dollar.
Oh, well, yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? I don't know that everybody will trust that you can do what you say you're going to do until you've got something under. So I would say I've seen another one of our entrepreneurs that's in our group that is like that. They're coming into the market and they're top dollar and nobody can afford them.
Right.
And they don't really have any proof that they've done great things yet. So, you know, I think just know that going in knowing you're going to do stuff cheap. You're going to do stuff really cheap for a while, maybe even free for a few people.
Right.
To build your portfolio of, you know, of awesomeness. And then once you do that, then, you know, start to recognize, and you'll know because you have more projects than time. You know, You'll start to realize there's some supply and demand there, and it may be time to reevaluate.
Right.
Or when you're going under because you're paying people to do the work more than you're making.
Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster right there.
Yeah. I did that for a minute.
What are you learning about now? Like, what holds your interest today?
Yeah. I mean, I've been more and more into this, like, how to get the community. I read this other book. I went to the 1 Million Cups Organizers Summit in Kansas City this last year. And while we were there, one of the breakout sessions was about creating an ecosystem of creatives and of entrepreneurs, and how do you pull all these people together and get them to share their stories and talk. And they talked about a book that's actually written for missionaries called Exegete the City.
What is that?
Exegete the City.
Exegete?
Exegete the City.
I've never heard that word.
Yeah. It's they shared it with us, and it was written about a missionary who was going in and trying to change the spiritual culture of a community. And he was saying, if you could read this and then apply it to the entrepreneurial culture of a city, like, how do you change that? And that is what's really been inspiring me lately, is like, how do we do more of this, bringing all of these startups together, and how are we creating a culture like Denver has, or creating a culture like Kansas City has, where there's so many entrepreneurs and all of us are coming together and we're being creative and we're honing our niches and the things that we're really, really good at, and we're sharing clients and work and ideas. And Kim Graham here at the Innovation Hub, she always says creative collision. And where's that space? And she wants it to be here at the hub, obviously, you know, which it can be, and it is starting to be.
Right.
But I think that's what interests me the most right now, is just being at the heartbeat of that. I want to be right where that's happening. Right.
One of the things you mentioned there was all the creative collisions. Yeah. I think you said. Yeah, I think I've heard her say that. Do you find that the people here hold their cards close to the vest when it comes to sharing their creativity with other people?
Not in some communities.
Mm-hmm.
When you're first coming in and you're trying to find that spot, maybe a little bit. But
sure.
But the more, like, 1 Million Cups is loosening up and people are starting to talk more and get more creative and share more, like, hey, have you tried this, or have you thought about that? And I think just the more we have those opportunities, the more a few people do it. You know, there's a lot of power in representation. You just start to see other people doing it and you're like, hey, I could do that too. And then it gets the ball rolling.
What I've seen is a lot of collaboration.
Yeah.
You know, people, I think people are starting to realize, number one, in this world, that an idea isn't worth much, right? An idea, you know, someone thinks they have the next $1 million idea, but if it's just if it stays in your head and no one can help you with it, it's just going to stay an idea. And I think people are starting to realize that. And I see a lot of people around here sharing, working together, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
2 more questions for you. The first question is, if you were in my seat and there was another entrepreneur or influencer of some kind sitting across from you, what would you ask them?
I probably want to just know why they do what they do, because it's it's a lot easier to just get a job sometimes, you know. You're like, why did I sign up for like torture for life? And so I'm always curious, like, what got you there? Like, why do you want to do this?
Right. And that's a great question, and one that I hope that we can, fit into or naturally get the pulse of as we go. And then the second question is the last question from One Million Cups, and I don't even really need to tell you what it is, do I?
Yeah, no.
So
what can we as a community do for me?
Yes, right.
Yeah, I think, just keep getting involved in stuff and keep collaborating. Come to the Innovation Hub, talk to people, and don't be afraid to try something new. And I think there's a lot of people who have ideas and they want to try something, but they've got fear holding them back. And just like, even if you fail, it's okay. Like, it's cool. Like, there's going to be another idea right behind that one. So let's just try it out. And a lot of times it's opportunities to fail quickly and then,
fail forward.
Yeah. The next thing's just right there after that.
Yeah. Well, Amy, thank you so much for talking to me today, and I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
Hub City Spokes is presented by the Lubbock Economic Development Alliance and produced in partnership with Hamill Brothers Studios. A special thanks to the Innovation Hub here at Texas Tech University for hosting us. To hear more from our creators and catalysts, visit lubbockeda.org/podcast.